Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of iWorkinSport Live Interview. This is the show where we talk to accomplished sport business professionals who come here to share their knowledge, experience, tips, and advice in order to help you succeed in your career. My name is João Fugerio. I'm the founder of iWorkinSport. We're a platform made to help you boost your career in sport. We connect talents and recruiters, especially, but not only through a series of events, while we also promote career growth and education, always in sport. Let me find the link here. We're at iWorkinSport.com. This is sort of our website. You can check us out there, or here at our social media channels. We're pretty much everywhere at iWorkinSport. It's great to see people connecting already. If you're coming back, you know the drill. Let us know where you're watching from. Prepare your questions. This is very interactive. It's always great to have you participating. Before we go to our guest, let me just remind you that in less than 2 weeks, we're going to have the iWorkinSport Education Virtual Expo happening from the 6th to the 8th of April. It's an event where you can meet some of the best masters in sports management and other programs as well, all online, all free to attend. So if you would like to connect with the admissions from those courses, and even their alumni, there's a link in the description. So just go and register for that. It's free. Again, thank you so much for being here. Don't be shy. Say hello in the chat. We're going to acknowledge you right away. Also, if you can, support us there with a like if you're watching it on YouTube. Also subscribe to the channel. That would be great. If you want to get notifications, hit that bell icon too. And let's go to our guests. Today we're going to talk to Phil Gegan. I think it's Gegan. I should have asked him before. I've known him for 10 years or so. I pronounce it this way. I think it's, let's see if that's correct. So Phil is the managing director at Soccerex. So I trust that many of you know of Soccerex, or probably all of you know of Soccerex. If you don't, it's a major, it was then and continues to be the first major conference about the business of football. It was founded about 25 years ago. It will be celebrating its 25th anniversary very soon, and was a pioneer really in bringing multiple football stakeholders together. Of course, now it's even more than that, and Phil will tell us all about that. He's been with the company for about 15 years, maybe more. I think it's 16 maybe. And going from operations assistant to managing director, right? So quite a career there, and has met and worked with the biggest names in football from many generations, right? So I'm really looking forward to the chat. So I want to get to that straight away, and we'll do that right after this. Hello, Phil. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. And you're a one-man production studio. This is incredible.
It is. I have to do everything here, so sometimes I'm kind of talking to you, but also reading the chat and trying to see where to press. But it's been working, so
it's impressive.
We make it happen.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
Yes, is it Gegan?
I'll answer to pretty much anything. It's Gegan, like Kevin Gegan, but with a G.
Right.
Although it's everything from Gegan to Gagan, depending on where in the world I am. So yeah, it's.
Does anybody call you Gegan?
I have had actually quite a few Brazilians call me Gegan. Yeah, that's and if you ever call up those kind of like the helplines. It's a message for Philip Gegan quite often. So yes, I'll answer to that too.
That's cool. Listen, before we jump to questions, why don't you give us a summary of your career? I mean, you haven't been at Soccerex for a long time, but maybe even from what you studied until, I mean, what you're doing now.
Yeah, so as you said in your intro, I actually started doing work for Soccerex when I was 16. So I was still at school, and in the UK you have something called work experience, and I did a couple of weeks at Soccerex and really enjoyed it. I mean, I think the first phone call I took was from Jeff Hurst, the hat-trick scorer at the 1966 World Cup, which was, you know, for a 16-year-old schoolboy, he actually said it's Jeff, and I said okay, and I asked like, who do you want to talk to? Put the call through, and they said, oh, it's Jeff Hurst. What, the Jeff Hurst? I thought, this isn't a normal workplace. This is awesome. So I continued. I had a number of other jobs, kind of like the kind of jobs you have as a teenager, working in supermarkets and so on and so forth. But I continued doing work for Soccerex, lots of database things, the kind of things that you don't really enjoy, but wanted to stay in contact with the company and continued doing more and more. Ended up starting to come to the events and then joined as an operations assistant. From then I actually went to uni and I did a year of civil engineering. That wasn't for me, so I moved on to do a degree in economics, which was much more my thing. And then when I graduated, I came to work for Soccerex straight away. And yeah, over the years, had a chance to work in the different departments and understand how the business works as a whole. And yeah, a couple of years ago, was promoted all the way up to MD. So now run the place, which is in years like the one we've had, has its challenges, but overall is great to be able to have come up the whole way. And it was almost like that, the kind of Japanese style of management, that you kind of have to understand how the different parts of the business work, so that when you're interacting with the guys in your team, you're not kind of away at sea. So yeah, it's been an interesting few years, and as you said, like it's 15 or 16 or maybe even 17 years that I've been here. But LinkedIn tells me every year, and it's usually the notifications coming through of congratulations on LinkedIn is, oh, it's another year. Okay. But yeah, it's been a fun journey, and being able to see lots of people and be lots of places that kind of didn't ever think I'd be. And as we were discussing just off screen, got to meet personal hero in Gilberto Silva, the invisible wall for Arsenal in the Invincible. So yeah, it's been a life well fulfilled.
Great, Gilberto Silva. I do actually have an interview with him in the channel. I was with him before the pandemic with a group of other Brazilian people and some players in Lyon. So that was great. We're doing kind of sort of a course there organized by some friends, and that was great to spend some time with him as well. Tell us about Soccerex then. So what it is, I tried to briefly explain at the introduction. I believe that most people watching this will know of Soccerex, but tell us, what that is, apart from tell us about the events and everything else.
Yeah, so Soccerex, as you were saying, Soccerex started almost 25 years ago. The actual anniversary of the first event we ran is April the 23rd, 1996. So we're just closing in on that 25th anniversary of the first days we were open. And for many years we were just the premier networking platform and learning platform for football. And we'd go to different parts of the world. We've been to kind of like Africa, South America, North America, Asia, Europe, Australasia, and Oceania is still on the list. But we've been all around the world doing these events and bringing together the football community, whether it's a regionally focused event or a globally focused event, to try and develop the industry and drive it forwards. And in the last couple of years, what we've looked to do is to expand that beyond just the events, because providing people with connections to each other, or providing them with insights and connecting them to the new information that's coming into the industry is what we do. And so we have kind of products which go out on email, twice a week, which give a lot of industry insight. We have white papers. We do kind of introductions and consultancy services. We've spread out way beyond the events. But at our core and our mission is to keep football connected, whether that's to each other, to different parts of the world, or to the key information they need, and to kind of keep football business connected to the game, because it's quite easy to forget that football business is built on a sport that people love. It's not just a business. And it's something that is easy to forget. It's not like working in oil. You don't have people who are walking around with BP is my favorite oil. That's not the case. And so it's really important that as the industry professionalizes and commercializes, that we don't lose the societal aspects of the game. So we try and keep that as a current through everything we do as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think my first Soccerex was, I don't know if 2007 or 8. It was in South Africa.
Yeah, Joburg. Yeah.
Johannesburg. So you did a few events there, and I think I've been to Soccerex events pretty much every year since then. Let me just tell you, we have an international crowd watching us. So if you're watching and you haven't posted yet, let us know where you're watching from. Just to give you a sense, we have Audrey in Belgium, Barnabas in Hungary, Shorty in Trinidad and Tobago, Elton saying hi from Zambia, and John Mark, I don't remember where you're based. You were here last week, so let us know where you're watching from, and also prepare your questions. Of course, we do have Erica here in Lausanne. Oh yeah, John Mark is in Ghana. I think you know this person. Patrick
Casto, there he is.
Hello, Patrick. Tonaccio in Boston. I'm not going to ask you if I pronounced your name correctly. I'm confident that I did this time. So good to see you here. Tell us about. I want to ask you about your role at Soccerex and what you do there. But you mentioned digital events. You just announced the Soccerex Connected 100. So what is it exactly? How's that going to work? I suppose it's very different from the Soccerex Connected that you held last year, I think twice, right, during the pandemic. And how is that going to be?
Yeah, so as you said, the last year has kind of put a hold on events. So we had to do like most people, we had to do a digital pivot. And so we ended up putting on events in September and also in February. The Soccerex Connected series is how we termed them. And they were a solid week of insights, of kind of keynotes, panels, workshops, roundtables, networking, kind of trying to make as close as we could to the Soccerex events in the digital format. And based on the feedback we've had and based on kind of what the industry needs and how we're seeing the year pan out, we remade that image. And so what we're looking to do is on the 24th of May, the platform that we've been using for Soccerex Connected will go live, and it will be up and running for 100 days. So throughout that entire period, people will be able to access kind of Media Vault content, so from previous events that has relevance now, to be able to network with each other. And that's something that we've worked very hard on, because content delivery, kind of the internet lends itself to content delivery, but networking is the side of business that has really suffered during this pandemic. So we've majored on that, and we've got really good responses about the networking facilities on our platform. And there'll be 5 content days spread out throughout those 100 days. So there'll still be full form content on 5 key streams, but in a more diary friendly way, and able to look at sport as it returns. I mean, we've got the Euros and Copa America and Olympic football all happening in June and July. So we can have discussions and have panels that react to how things are happening live in the football market, and look at things like the transfer market, broadcast. As all these developments are happening, we'll have a community around us that needs to know and needs to see what's happening elsewhere, especially as we come to the beginning of the European football season. Like our event broadly ends as the next season, hopefully a normal season, starts. And so lots of the things that people need to implement for that coming season, they'll have to be doing this summer. And
Right.
so we're trying to provide something which will really help kickstart football and get it back to where it needs to be. Because the last year is, it's not a secret. I think Arsene Wenger was on TV in Qatar the other day saying that it's kind of been a 25 to 40% hit on global revenues for football. Yeah. So there's lots of things that need to be addressed, and we'll be covering those on the core days. We'll have a few other bits and pieces running throughout, but yeah, broadly it's 100 days for the entire football community to get together and to reconnect ahead of hopefully a return to normality.
So the way it works, people that's already registered for Soccerex Connected as before, they will have access to that same platform again. We'll be able to see the content that is there, that was streamed during the 5 days of the previous events, or that will be open for 10 days. It will work as a networking tool, if I understand. And then you also have a few days where you're going to be generating new content and some live sessions. Is that how it's going to work?
That's correct. Yeah. So the live content days start on the 9th of June and are then fortnightly. So every 2 weeks from then, we'll have live content days. And there will be other things happening. There's obviously we're still developing the exact programming for the full period, but there will be other small pieces happening throughout the period. So, like I say about networking, we have roundtables where we get people together and we workshop. We have team talks where kind of problems that are put to us by the industry, because obviously our VIP community team's constantly interacting with people in the industry. And if there are specific issues that need to be addressed, we can then put those out to market and see what solutions come back. Right. And so all these things will be happening. Some are invite only, some are open to the public. So all these things will be happening through the whole period.
I was going to ask, how can people attend? How they register? I actually included for people watching it on LinkedIn. There's a link in the description. If you want to make sure that you get the notifications from Soccerex as well, I think there's a link there for registration. But how does that work? Do you need to pay? Is there a...
Yeah, so there's we've kept the price the same. So it's £100 for 100 days, which is I think it's pretty good value. Yeah. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee. Let's put it that way. Well, it's cheaper than about a fifth of a cup of coffee in London. So yeah, it's £100 for 100 days to have a pass. There's obviously for some of the bigger suppliers and sponsors, there's additional packages. But for lots of the people who are working, yeah, there's a student rate that we have, which I'll send the link to you so you can put that out to your network, which allows them to access at a lower rate. But it's a paid for event because at its core, Soccerex has always been a business event. And so having any kind of price barrier is a way of making sure that you're maintaining at least some of the quality. Yes. To ensure that the event's productive for the people who join. Right.
Oh, cool. Yes, if you then later want to send the links, I will put for people that will be watching it on the replay. If you're watching on the replay, it might already be there. There's a police car passing by.
It's London, yeah.
And so, Phil, you're doing a lot there. What is it that you like the most about your job then?
So up until the last year, I would always have said traveling. I absolutely love going. That's one of my favorite things about the job. Always has been being able to go to different parts of the world, interact with different people, especially parts of the world that you wouldn't usually go to. That for me is kind of like just new experiences. That for me is my favorite part of the job. That's obviously, yeah. I mean, it's
my favorite for sure.
it's great. It helps broaden your mind, and that's one thing during this lockdown, which I think has shown through more than anything else, that innovation has become more important than ever. But being stuck inside your own house 5 days a week isn't really conducive to innovation. And you always need that stimulation. You just see how other people think, how they approach problems, how they operate. So yeah, traditionally, travel would have been the best part of the job. But in this last year, I'd say, yeah, innovating around the challenges that have come up that just no one saw. Yeah, those would be the two things. And then hopefully by the end of this year, it goes back to being travel.
Cool. And what's the secrets to stay so long, for so long in one place?
Stubbornness.
We don't see much of that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's partially a labor of love. Like, if you invest a lot of time into a project, then you want to see it come good. And I think that Soccerex is an incredible brand, and it has like so much potential to go even further beyond where we're planning now. Like, we're coming up to our 25th anniversary. Like when they're looking back from the 50th anniversary, it could be providing huge amounts of services like globally. And I see that potential, and I'd like to realize it. And we have something that we call the Soccerex family. We like to operate an international business, but with a family feel. And I think that's important as well. If you work somewhere that you like, you're less likely to leave. And so, yeah, I think that's probably the two key things behind the longevity of and starting early. And like I said, if you start when you're 16 somewhere, it's not as hard to rack up the years.
You talked about, I mean, the family feel. Has that changed since, because Soccerex was 100% family business for a long time, while Duncan was with us, and then recently, I think was a couple of years ago, that you have new
investors from the US.
Investors from the US, shareholders. Has that changed much? The work at Soccerex, it became more corporate, or do you still more or less the same?
It's changed in some ways, I think, for the positive. And in others, it's so that the guys that invested into Soccerex, they're very much, again, they're professionals. JCP Sports, that's correct. JCP. So they're very professional. I mean, they're finance guys, and they're running an international business, but they also maintain the kind of friendliness and family feel within their own group. And so it's not a clash of cultures. And there's lots of things that we've learned huge amounts from how they operate. So there's been things that have changed and that have helped us to achieve more. But overall, we still have like all the kind of social. Well, we did up until COVID, have all the kind of social elements that bring the team together. And even not that we're doing like a Friday night get together, but we still interact a lot as a team. And we're starting to get people back in the office. So like today I'm here, and there's one or two other members of staff, nicely socially distanced. Right. But yeah, we've maintained that family feel, and I think it's important for people to understand that they're valued, and that they're part of something where they're not just a number. And I think at some bigger companies, you can sometimes get lost in the mass. Whereas when you maintain a family feel, people buy into the project more.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about that, so hello, Rita. It's been a long time, Juliana, Olivia. So people at our friends at Soccerex, I hope to be able to join your events in person again. It is a great company. It's great people in it. You have great alumni as well. So you formed so many great professionals for sport. We had Misha here, Misha Scher at Mediacom. talking with us a few weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, and there's so many others.
Yeah.
Paul, Dan.
Yeah, there's Julian, Domenico. I mean, there's quite a list of people who've gone on to work for some very big brands, very big companies. But I think that part of that comes back to the fact it's a family business, is that you're given opportunities here to you kind of to make something of yourself. So you're not just stuck where you have to do the same thing the same way all the time. If you have an idea, then you can put that idea forward, and you can grow. And I think that's important. And yeah, not to take credit for everything the guys have done. I mean, they're incredible individuals in their own rights. But also being kind of the company is at the centre of football, and so in that position, you have a chance to learn from, as we were saying earlier, lots of different cultures, lots of different places in the world, lots of different aspects. And it really helps you to see football in a more rounded way, and sport and business in a more rounded way as well. And I think that definitely helps.
No, it's a great place. Actually, of course, Patrick, who was the one who started there, says Soccerex is a real family. I started my career in sports there. It was the absolute dream job. Forever grateful for this opportunity. Phil, Rita, and everyone there. There's another one from the Soccerex family. Hi here. Hello, Ju. There's Renata that's worked there for another friend of ours that's worked there for a few years. And many others. You actually have been, so Soccerex has been at some of our events and hired people there as well. Yep. And also heard great things from them too. And this is as good a time as any to tell people that you're going to be there as well in May at our digital event at the virtual job fair. There's a few more people saying hi here.
Hug from Brazil, yeah.
And Otacílio, both in Brazil. Hello, thanks for watching. Phil, going back to talk a little more about football, the business of football. Mm-hmm. What are the main trends in football that have gotten your attention, especially during this period of time? Maybe solutions for the current situation. Of course, there's this trend now of the city group type of trend of clubs, acquiring other clubs and creating groups. JCP is at the core of that as well. What are the main ones that you can point out from, let's say, the past year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the central ones. The amount of kind of, especially American companies looking to form multi-club groups. City have done an amazing job with how they've pushed forward with the clubs and the different organisations they work with. So that's definitely something which will continue, and it raises some other interesting questions from a governance point of view as to how you maintain the competitive nature of sport. Especially in certain parts of the world where there's no rules about owning two teams that could be going up against each other, and as long as there's betting on football, how can you actually have a multi-club environment? Things like the Club World Cup, if that goes ahead as FIFA are proposing and it expands to a much bigger competition, it's even more likely that someone like City could have Manchester City, New York City, and like the Japanese or the Australian team, they could all be playing each other, at which point it raises some interesting questions. That's definitely a trend. Digitization, tokens, NFTs, all that side of the business, which has kind of popped up in the last couple of years. There's obviously a huge amount of interest, and in honesty, a huge amount of trepidation. Like, everyone knows, it reminds me a bit of back in the kind of late 2000s, early 2010s, when everyone knew that they needed to be doing social media, but they didn't really know what they should be doing or how to do it. And that is kind of how tokens and NFTs and all those kind of things feel at the moment. So we've actually got a couple of panels at the event this summer, which will cover that side of the market. I imagine they'll be very well attended because there's even myself, like, I think I'm a fairly intelligent guy, but some of the things around tokens and NFTs kind of might have me scratching my head. So that's a big trend. And then there's not so much a trend, but a big question that's been raised is around kind of that sustainability of football as a business, because the last 20, 30 years have seen TV revenues especially going up on a contract by contract basis of up to 30%. And you've got lots of top clubs aren't profitable. And any other business where your revenues are kind of rising 30% every couple of years, you've got a very strong business there. But like the championship in England, I think the figure I saw was that 130% of turnover is the current playing costs. Right. I mean, so that's something which has to come into the mainstream conversation, is how football becomes sustainable. I think Barcelona is another one where I think it's €1 billion in at one point a year or two ago, but €1 billion in revenue and €1 billion in costs. And €1 billion of collateralized debt. So
half of that going to Messi, apparently.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that it raises a lot of questions that have been put to one side whilst revenues have been just growing and growing and growing. But those questions will come up again.
Well, I lost your sound. Can you hear me, Phil? No, you stopped working. Will you have to reboot it again? Maybe try and just disconnecting the. No? Oh, this is live. So you're watching there, Patrick. I expect a good question from you as well to Phil. Phil, I don't know. Do you wanna, do that? Reconnect. And well, this is another good time while we're waiting for Phil. Let me know. I mean, if you do have any questions, prepare. I'm sure that he's coming back. Let me just remind you that we're going to have the Education Virtual Expo in less than 2 weeks. And there's a link in the description. You can sort of register there. If you can help us promote it, if you haven't done so yet, that would be great as well. That's where they will meet. Who's there? So the ASCS, Johan Cruyff Institute, the University of Coventry. Now I'm going to miss some of them. The University of Oregon, University of Liverpool. Next week, actually, we're, just so you know, Phil, you're back. Now I'm going just to finish telling them that next week we won't have this live interview as we're having now. We're going to have a session of four live interviews with what we call meet the programs. It will be representatives from the programs that will be at our Education Expo. So while you were off, I was just telling people, our audience, about that. So we're going to have on Monday the University of Liverpool. On Tuesday, the Jussur Institute in Qatar, very much involved with the World Cup. Then on Wednesday, we have the Johan Cruyff Institute. And then Thursday, the AISTS, based here in Lausanne. They're all having interviews to present their programs in more details. Now, sorry, you're back. Please continue.
I was just testing your MC skills.
They're not great. Please don't do that again.
I'm not sure what the last thing you heard was, but yeah, essentially the conversation around the sustainability of football. Yes. And we've even seen it with the European Super League kind of coming up again in the last couple of months.
Every time they need to to negotiate a contract, apparently that comes up.
It pops up. But yeah, so I think those are the main trends. And then there's going to be a question, which part of which will be answered this summer, about how major tournaments look in future. Because we'll see how willing people are this summer, and also there's obviously a World Cup next year. We'll see how people show willingness to attend events, so if they have to be COVID safe, if that stays a major consideration as people get vaccinated, if people are willing to travel. And then from the organizer side, with having seen how badly wrong things can go, will organizers change how they approach kind of pitching for these events and running these events? So those are the main trends that kind of seeing at the moment. And big data is another one. Big data is one which is spoken about. How can I say this? Is spoken about a lot, but not necessarily carried out in the way that kind of like pure IT professionals would think of big data. So, a lot of the time with things like player tracking, it tells you that guy's running faster than that guy, which is something you could see anyway. And we had a session on this again about how to use data in football to find the hidden clues and hidden secrets of the game, which I think still got a way to go, as it's in its infancy. At the moment, we're using data to quantify what we can already see. Whereas you're looking for like Moneyball in baseball. Actually, these are the stats that no one cares about, which are actually way more important than anyone realized. And so I'm quite interested to see what develops in big data in the next couple of years, especially on analytics, to give people an edge.
Right. And another topic as well, fan engagements. There's so many companies working on that and providing some new services. But listen, this is our show here. Our viewers, many of them are interested in finding a job sort of in sport, in football, or they want to move maybe to another role. And networking is, of course, hugely important. And I take that you're an expert. I've seen you operate. What would you say are the best practices to networking?
Depends on the situation. At our events, I think the key, if you're attending a networking event, or for instance the event that you're running in a couple of weeks, or the one in May, is to kind of use your time very carefully. It's very easy to end up having one conversation for a very long time, and then miss out on the opportunity to meet with a lot of different people. And unless you're the luckiest man alive, the first conversation you have is unlikely to be the only one you needed to have. And so one of the keys to networking is to actually make your way through the people who are gathered at an event, to make sure you follow up with them. You can be a very memorable person, but if you don't follow up for kind of like a year and a half with someone, they're not going to give you the response you're looking for. And be yourself, be honest and open. There's no point putting on a facade to have a conversation with someone. I think that's one of the things which I think is, people often say the things that they think other people want to hear. But that won't be productive long term for either party. So I think honesty is something which, if there's no opportunity for the two of you to work together, it's best for both parties to just say, it's been a pleasure meeting you. Want to stay in contact in future, but at this moment, I have to move on. But I'd say those are probably three of the key things.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I probably would say that the most neglected one is the follow-up part. It's the hardest sometimes, and maybe even like the most important one, actually.
Without a doubt, especially when you meet someone for the first time ever. And again, Patrick, who popped up earlier, the guys at the FBA do teach networking as part of their course, and it's exactly that. You need to follow up within a set amount of time, to really have an impact. And lots of the time, follow-ups on an email or follow-ups done on LinkedIn, you need to establish enough of a connection with the person and do something unique enough that when you email them afterwards or LinkedIn message them afterwards, you can reference that and they can distinguish you from the crowd of other people. And again, like for the events that you're running in the next couple of weeks, being on the receiving end of like hundreds and hundreds of applications, like no matter how good you are, they all kind of start to blur into each other. But if you have someone who had something unique, and it's that guy, that's quite important as well.
Yeah, no, I think this is a gold advice. Actually, we could do this. Only this clip would be already for everyone. But let's not stop here. And what do you think are? I mean, I mentioned networking, but probably there are others. What are the skills or traits that allowed you to be where you are today? If you are to do a bit of self-reflection.
I only sleep about 3 or 4 hours a night, so I think being able to work more hours is probably up there.
Did you only sleep 3 or 4 hours a night before having a baby too?
That's actually cut down the hours even further. Yeah. That's, traits. I think like I said this earlier, but investing yourself into a project. I think you should always give your all. I mean, there'll be lots of jobs that you don't enjoy. It's work for a reason. You should ideally work in a field you love, but you're not going to enjoy every task and every job you have along the way. So I think a willingness to do the things you don't like as well as do the things you do like is important. The willingness to learn, like especially when you're starting out your career, you might have just kind of like finished a degree, or you might have had some experience in 1 or 2 companies, but you're not the finished article. And as you see from lots of people who reach the top of the game, even in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, you're still learning. The industry is changing around you, and so willingness to learn is very important. That you're constantly going to become a better worker the more open you are to taking on new tasks, new roles, different tasks. And yeah, I think that kind of, for me especially, like I said, I worked in all different parts of the business, and sometimes you kind of like you are sitting there thinking, I don't know how this is going to go, but you have to take those chances, otherwise you won't progress. And for lots of the guys who are listening, make it an open conversation. It can be scary talking to a line manager or a boss sometimes, but if you tell them what you want or what your goals are long term, then at least you're both on the same page and you can kind of work towards those. And we still do that. So we actually we took on an intern recently, and that was one of my questions. Like, where do you see yourself like in 5-10 years? What's like the vision? And they were looking to be at a major confederation, organising a tournament or being part of tournament organisation. And so it's like, well, okay, well, we know what skills we can teach you that will be relevant to that, and then we also know who we can connect you to, who can, later down the line make that a possibility. But I think being honest and open about where you want to be, and you might not always know, but I think that's important, because otherwise there can be frustration on both sides.
I think many times people don't really know.
Yeah, it's definitely the case that you don't always know. There are some people who know this is my dream, but even if you have kind of short to medium term goals of what you want, I think that's something which is sometimes neglected. And if you only rely on the employer to pull that information out of you, as opposed to put it forwards, then you're likely to be waiting longer to progress in your career than if you kind of take the initiative.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, being proactive is quite important. Listen, we have Patrick actually helping me. He's co-hosting the interview today, and he's posting a few comments here. So I'm going to put on the screen. He says, He's participated in almost every Soccerex since he worked with you guys. Back then, of course, iWorkinSport didn't exist, but definitely recommend the platform to everyone who wants to work in football. Thank
Agreed.
you.
Yeah.
And a question for you. Actually, something that I was going to ask you anyway about the importance of education. You've been involved with several academic programs, but how important it is actually to follow a degree in football or sports management to find a job in the industry. And if you want to recommend any.
Yeah, so I don't think it's essential. So especially it depends on the department you might want to work in within a club or a confederation or something like that. There's a shortage of knowledge in a lot of areas of the football business industry, where they are happy to see people coming in from outside. So I mean, if you look at Manchester United as an example, when they were looking to build their media arm, they weren't looking for someone who had a sports degree. They were looking for someone who had a background in kind of like film, TV, those kind of things. So I don't think it's essential to take a sports degree to work in football. And there are definitely some positives to it, especially as these degrees mature as well. They're teaching progressively more relevant kind of information to graduates.
They're getting more specialized as well.
Yeah, so I think as that happens, because obviously it's still quite a young market, and as that happens, then yes, like if you have a football law specialization, or you have like specialization in player analytics, or those kind of things will start to come through. But at the moment, I think it's not an essential to do that. But it definitely helps. And like you said, with some of the courses, we obviously partner with FIFA Masters and the FBA. And I actually remember you coming to the office to sign that contract years and years ago in the office. I think I took the photos. In fact, I have them somewhere. I'll send them over to you.
With I do as well with Tim. I almost said Tim Duncan because it was Duncan and
Duncan and Tim. But yeah, so FIFA Masters obviously an incredible program, and the alumni network is kind of second to none. I mean, it's like the who's who of people in football is in that alumni network. And with the FBA, one of the things kind of that is really good about that program is the practical side. And I remember the kind of the kickoff meetings when they were first looking to build that degree was to make it a lot more practical, so that you end up moving into the jobs with a certain level of real world knowledge as opposed to just theoretical. And obviously all the guys are kind of like ex-Soccerex people, so they understand networking and the importance of building a network to your future success. Because it's underestimated, but your network is one of the key kind of stores of value in you as an employee. So when you're moving to your kind of like future roles, and if you and someone else have very similar academic backgrounds, and then one of the big differentiators can be who you know. And so I think the FBA do a good job of instilling that in their graduates, that it's important to look at where you want to be and how you achieve that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And what I normally tell people, many people ask me that, and if they ask me, oh, should I do a master's in sports to find a job in sport? I normally say no, because I don't think that's the reason why you would want to do that kind of program, because it brings so much more and actually demands so much from you in terms of time invested, money invested, and it will bring you much more than a job. And there's basically what I tell people is there's easier, there are faster and much cheaper ways to find a job in sport. The thing is, you might go and start as an intern somewhere and by your own, and then you're going to progress in your career. Maybe that you do with the FBA or the FIFA Master or the Johan Cruyff or Liverpool or others, that you might finish that semester, even have to give a step back in your career and start at an internship there. However, then you're going to be in a much better position that's that other intern, because as you mentioned, you have your network, you have your alumni, you already visited so many other companies during your course. And then there's the whole life experience that you have, right? So living and studying with 25, 30 odd people from all around the world, that's an experience that money can't buy, really. So you carry that to the rest of your life. And when I talk to people about investing in a master's degree, so in sport, you have to look about that. So otherwise, if it's just to get a job, there is other ways to do that, in my view.
No, I completely agree.
And what are the main things that you then look at someone? So do you have any positions at the moment? Are you going to be looking for people to join sort of Soccerex maybe in the second semester? And if
Yeah.
so, what are the skills that you look for? You already mentioned proactivity, but
So
what
yeah, I
else?
mean, we're always broadly on the lookout for talent. Obviously, the last year has been a very tough period for most companies. But as you say, we're looking that the industry is going to start returning to normal this summer, and a number of the additional products I was talking about earlier that we're looking to launch this year, which will again give us more to share with the global football community, will need to be done by someone. There's that ambulance again. We're right next to one of London's biggest hospitals, so it's that. But yeah, we will be looking at the event that you're running to find candidates. The expansion of the content arm of our business is continuing apace, so that'll be one of the positions. And as kind of goes without saying, commercial positions are always available. I don't think any company in history has ever not wanted to add more people to a commercial arm. But with regards to kind of like broad things that we look for, a passion for sport is quite important. It's not the be all and end all. If we have like an amazing candidate and they're not a football nut, that's not the end of the world. But it is good to have a passion for sport. Proactivity is definitely one, especially being a family business. Like we're not micromanaging you to a crazy degree. And so being able to lead people to develop and be proactive and have a bit more freedom, proactivity is key. Again, honesty, I think I said it earlier, but like to feel that you can trust the person you're talking to tell you what they're feeling and what they're thinking. Good communication skills are always a key, because I think 90% of problems are usually from not being able to communicate what you think, feel, want, and need. Yeah. And what else? And yeah, hard work and dedication. I mean, it kind of goes without saying. They're all much of a muchness, and things you'd expect in any job. But yeah, in sports, there's still lots of great opportunities.
Language skills for someone to work at Soccerex.
It depends on the position. They're definitely a benefit. I mean, we're trying to service a global market, and we've always had a multilingual team. In fact, it's a constant source of embarrassment for someone like me. I barely speak English, and we've got people who've worked for us who speak 8 languages. So it's a nice reminder that the English school system's terrible at languages. But yeah, having a language is a great benefit, especially for people to develop networks outside of the mainstream. So Spanish opens up the whole of Latin America, which is like the biggest player export market on the planet. We've got some Chinese speakers, which China's obviously an enormous market. They've got a few issues at the moment in football. But yeah, having languages definitely helps.
Right. Great. Phil, we're almost at the hour mark already. And so I'm going to tell anyone that is watching, if you do have a question, this is your last chance. I do have a couple more. So, I mean, you've been sort of working with Soccerex, who met so many big stars in football, from now and from the past. And what's your favorite moment in football? Maybe working and maybe just a sporting moment. So pick two. One just as a fan and another one related to work.
The work one, like I said, meeting Gilberto Silva, although it might not be everyone's cup of tea, that was a real highlight for me. I've still got the picture in my house. Like I was really thrilled about that. He was. I was never a particularly gifted footballer, but I was very determined, and I quite liked the work he did. So meeting him was a real highlight. And you were sitting opposite me at the time.
I was there, and then I had that advantage that we could talk in Portuguese. First time that I met him, and as I said, we were together as well in Lyon not long ago with that group of other sort of friends, some football players and other people working in the industry. So we do share a WhatsApp group now.
You've got a WhatsApp group. Look at you.
I'm gonna tell him that meeting him was your favorite moment in football.
My wife told him that at the event. In true Brazilian style, she let that slip. So that was a really, in fact, that could actually it could double. It could be my favorite and most embarrassing moment at Soccerex. How about that?
Why was that embarrassing?
It was just telling someone, oh yeah, he's your super fan. I mean, that's just a bit embarrassing. And then favorite sporting moment. It's a slightly odd one. The return of Thierry Henry for Arsenal. Arsenal versus Leeds, and we just couldn't break them down. And I was sat right on the partition between the Arsenal and Leeds fans. And obviously Duncan, who founded Soccerex, his dad was the legendary Leeds manager. And the one thing that kind of is known about Leeds fans is they are incredibly loud and they just don't stop. And so I think it was about 70 odd minutes into the game, starting to get quite nervous. And then Thierry Henry came on, and it was like he'd never left. It was a beautiful moment. He came on, the ball came out to him on the left wing, opened up his body, swept it into the bottom corner, and I ended up about 15 seats away from where I'd started by the time we'd all finished jumping. So yeah, that was one of my favourite moments. It was just beautiful to see him come home. Yeah, that was a lovely moment for me.
Good stuff. And lastly, I always ask people here to recommend a book, especially if you have one in mind for people that are starting their careers in sport, or might help them in their journey. It's better. If not, if there's any other that you would like to recommend, and then if you want to add a podcast or YouTube channel, feel free to do so as well.
So I was actually thinking about this. The one book, and it might be an obvious one, but Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Yes,
book. The journey he went through to get the business up and running, all the flying between the west coast of the US and Japan, and not knowing if he was going to have trainers to sell and all those kind of things. I think that book's amazing. You kind of forget that the company only started in the 70s, because there's a multi-billion-dollar behemoth. You can't imagine that it was all happening from a small house. So yeah, I really enjoyed that book. And then for a podcast, a slightly odd one, I love the Freakonomics podcast. Like I said, I did economics at university, but they've got some really interesting ways of looking at things. And I think that helps like I say, it's a time when we need to be innovative this year, and just in the future, innovation and kind of getting ahead of your competitors is important. And those guys, every podcast, you kind of walk away thinking, God, I've never even thought of that. And I think that's actually a really interesting one. The book itself, Free Economics and Super Free Economics, like when they started going through why sumo wrestlers cheat, how Chicago drug gangs have got exactly the same corporate structure as McDonald's.
Right.
I mean, it sounds insane, but it's actually really interesting. Those are 3 books and 1 podcast.
Cool. Listen, thank you so much, Phil. And I want to thank everyone that was here with us or is still here with us and watched. Just another comment came in. Let me check it out. Oh, yes. Oh, Erica also likes the Free Economics, so she read that book as well. Great. I haven't read that one. I read the Shoe Dogs. I think it's actually in our resources at the iWorkinSport website.
Okay.
But anyway, as I was saying, Phil, thank you so much for doing this. I think it was great. Looking forward to keeping in touch. Say hi to Carol, to Liam.
Definitely will do.
And
thanks for having me on. I mean, also congratulations on everything with iWorkinSport. I mean, it definitely provides exactly what the industry needs. It's a really great thing that you've set up. So yeah, congratulations. Should be very proud of it. Keep up the good work.
We're kind of, when you mentioned that people should know where they want to go, or they should sort of have a vision, what you want to do in 5 years or 10 years time. I think until I was 40 something, I didn't really know. And just now in recent years, I kind of have clarity and found a way that you've been able to help people, connecting them. And then it's obvious that you help the candidates to get in touch with recruiters, but with the types of candidates that we're working with, I mean, people that really invest in their career, the large majority are doing those programs. So we're very much convinced that we're helping the recruiters as well. So it's really a win-win situation to all of them. So it's been great. It's been a good ride. And now this, doing YouTube interview. It's great to reconnect. I haven't talked to you in a long time. Last time was in Miami, I think.
Well, hopefully see you in Miami at the end of this year as well. I mean,
that would be great. Last chats coming in. Oh yeah, thanks, Erica. Guys, everyone, thank you so much for being here. As I said before, there's links in the description for the Soccerex Connected 100 and for the iWorkinSport Education Virtual Expo. And as I said, next week we don't have the traditional live interview, but we'll have 4 Meet the Programs interview. And I look forward to seeing you all there. Phil, don't go anywhere. We'll talk to you in a second. Bye-bye, everyone. Cheers.